Good afternoon, my degenerate crypto gambling friends. How are you doing this fine afternoon? I'm doing good. It looks like the Supreme Court has struck down Trump's tariffs. This was not a surprise. This is kind of what people were expecting. I'm guessing Trump and friends were expecting this also, and they have other plans. But the market doesn't seem to care. Bitcoin and crypto are up 2% today. So I guess that's a good thing. Let's check out the news here. Wendy O says, SCOTUS wants tariffs to be refunded. How are they going to refund billions in tariffs? The impact this is going to have on the American economy is going to be devastating. We are already hurting. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't mean that the tariffs are off the table. I don't think. They probably have other ideas in mind to keep this going. And the reason that they were struck down was that they said that the reason that Trump gave for the tariffs, an emergency act or something like that, was not valid. Now, I think we have more details here. 𝗃𝗶𝗿𝗀𝗍 says, today's Supreme Court will rule. Actually, this is before the ruling. He said, today the Supreme Court will rule on the tariffs. Markets will dump hard soon. That didn't happen. So he's totally wrong here. He said, tariffs brought over $600 billion into the U.S. economy. And the question is about how Trump imposed them, whether it was legal or not. He used the Internation Emergence Economic Powers Act, and the Supreme Court already ruled trade deficits are not a national emergency. President exceeded authority. Tariffs may have been unconstitutional executive action. So let's see then. The problems this will cause: unclear trade policy. Companies don't know future import costs. Governments may push new tariffs. Trade negotiations reopen globally. So the market hasn't reacted. I mean, I don't know if this is going to bring chaos. I don't know if they're gonna say that the tariffs, they can keep doing them for another reason. I don't know exactly what this means for the market, but I think people are a little bit short-sighted on the tariffs thing. Like, they don't understand what they're exactly for. The tariffs aren't just to bring extra income, like, you know, Trump says, well, we have this surplus of income, or we're going to use this income to pay down the debt. We're going to use this income to, you know, give people a stimulus check. One way or another, the debt should be paid down. It doesn't have to be paid down, but it should be paid down for the U.S. to have a good economic future. So if that works, even though people are complaining that some goods will cost more, but you choose which goods you buy. Some goods are going to cost more because of tariffs. Well, that's fine if that's a solution to paying down the debt. Because the way things are going, the U.S. is going to go bankrupt. And you will at some point have hyperinflation, sooner or later. So that's one thing, but the U.S. has a huge trade imbalance that was rebalancing with these tariffs. Trade imbalances are not good. The U.S.'s trade imbalance is so huge, it was a very, very bad thing for the U.S. And I don't know if people realize, but the U.S. standard of living has been getting worse and worse. I lived in the U.S. when I was a kid. I lived in the U.S. until I was 22 years old. And I remember being a kid in the U.S. and everything was cheap and you made a lot of money relative to Spain. Would come to Spain, everything here would be expensive and people made a lot less money. Then as time went on, I would come to Spain and things would be more expensive in the States, or as expensive in the States as in Spain, and people were not making more money. And so most recently, last time I went to the States was a while ago, several years ago, and just like everything was super expensive. The standard of living has gotten so bad compared to when I was a child. And in Spain, it's cheaper. You make a lot less money, but everything's a lot cheaper. And I think you live pretty well. And on top of that, it's like much safer than the States. Although there's some immigration happening now, and that's making things a little worse in certain areas. Hopefully they'll stop it before it gets too bad. Now, I'm not saying all immigrants are bad, of course. I have friends that are immigrants, very good friends, from Venezuela. But it needs to be controlled. You need to make sure people are on the up and up, and they're going to contribute to society. So you also have that issue. And then Trump is using tariffs for so many things. He's using it to motivate, kind of force, but to motivate companies to come back to the U.S. and build their factories in the U.S. so Americans have jobs. And also, it motivates other countries to do things like stopping wars. He always talks about stopping 7 wars or whatever. He just tell 2 countries, look, if you guys fight, then I'm going to impose these tariffs on you, and it's going to be terrible for your economy because the U.S., U.S. consumer buys so much of their stuff. So it's power. It's using the power that America has in terms of the purchasing power, people buying stuff, and it's using it to America's advantage. And so when you strike that down, now maybe the Supreme Court did what was correct in terms of the Constitution. That's their job. Their job is to judge based on the facts and what the Constitution says, not by what's good for the country. So I'm not criticizing anyone who struck it down, but I'm just saying that the people that are happy about this, you need to understand what all the stuff that the tariffs are for. And Trump uses tariffs to force other countries and companies to sell their products, create their products, build their products in the United States so that the United States makes more money and so that the United States has more jobs. This dude works very hard to make the United States richer. So that's all I got to say about this. So we'll see if they come up with some kind of alternative to keep the tariffs going. I don't know. It's going to be interesting no matter what. So we have, Lark Davis says, GDP just missed by a mile, 1.4% instead of 3%. And get this, inflation is accelerating. Core PCE came in at 3%, hotter than forecast. In January, it hit 3.1%. So we had more inflation than was expected, but in general, inflation has really gone down a lot. So, well, he says stagflation, anyone? So if there's more inflation, then what does that mean? That means the Fed would keep rates higher, is what I understand, to keep the inflation under control. And higher rates, well, that's not good for the market. That's not good. People want lower rates, more money flowing, and that usually makes assets go up in value, like crypto. So Coinbase launches 3.5% USDC rewards for Coinbase One members. Now, if you become a Coinbase One member, you can earn 3.5% on USDC. So you just hold your stable coins in there, and stable coins are much more secure now with the Genius Act and the coming Clarity Act. So it's not as risky as before. And the only thing is, there's always some kind of risk having if someone hijacks your account or something, but because with a bank, there's a lot more security. Anyways, I'm not a big fan of Coinbase. I've had friends send me money from Coinbase, and or do trades on Coinbase. They charge so much commission, it's ridiculous. Use Binance. I don't think you can in the U.S. now, but Gum says Solana dominates Ethereum on every time frame. It does 2x the volume on Ethereum. In 2023, this seemed impossible. Now it's a daily occurrence. If it continues this path, this multiple will be 4x by next cycle. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. It might not be, but Solana is just kicking everybody's butt. Just buy Solana. That's the smartest buy. Rand says retail sees 50%, minus 50%. Panic sells, tweets, I told you so. Holders see minus 50%, quietly accumulate 200,000 BTC. Every cycle, same movie, different audience. We have a graphic here. Yeah, I don't say it quietly. I tell everyone I'm buying. And yeah, if you don't have conviction in crypto, whenever it goes down, you're going to say, oh, you see, I told you so. Oh, I knew it was a scam. I knew I'd never make money. Look, I got in 2021. I was up really good, and then I didn't sell. I got wiped out. I lost pretty much all my money, also from doing stupid things and trading around too much instead of just leaving money in the good coins. And then I was up much bigger in the beginning of 2024, but I didn't sell, and I didn't know it was going to be so short-lived, and then I went way down again, and I'm way down. But look, I have conviction. I believe some of these altcoins are gonna be worth a lot of money, like Sol and some of the other ones up there. And I'm sticking with it. I gotta stick with something until I succeed. And that's just the way I think now. I'm getting too old to be jumping around. So sooner or later, we're gonna succeed with this. Just keep your conviction and hold good coins. It feels like the majority of the world still looks at crypto as scams, gambling, meme coins, and pure speculation. The reality is the industry is closer than ever to real adoption, and the next move is going to be insane. I hope so. We've gotten some of the most bullish developments in years and are set up with some of the strongest catalysts ever, but most people are too focused on short-term price action to notice. The future is bright for anyone smart enough to stick around. Oh, hell yeah, it's bright. Man, things are just really moving for crypto. Zero Hedge says, earning yields on idle balances, a key crypto industry goal, is effectively off the table, according to... I hope that's not true. Wendy O says, we are forced to deposit our money into banks, then can loan it out at their discretion and gamble with our money. When they fail, our taxpayer dollars bail them out, and since they are required to hold zero assets, we might not even be able to withdraw our money. That is true. Banks gamble with your money. They invest your money. I think they only have to have 10% of your cash actually in the bank. So I'm not sure if that's 100% correct. So I think 90% of what you give them, they can invest it, and it doesn't matter. And then they get bailed out. So yes, this is what happens. This is the way things work. That's why we liked crypto. James Wayne says we're going to 48,000. There's nothing you can do about it. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't really care. It's not that low. I'm happy with my entries now in altcoins, even if they go down another 30-40%. That's fine because I think they're going to go up much more. Lark Davis. Let's see what Charles has to say here.
And analogously, when we look at the industry as a whole, it is absolutely hard to beat the people who print the money. On the other hand, those people have abused the human race for so long in so many different ways that you have to really ask yourself, why do we follow them outside of fear? And if we can get to a point where we just don't fear anymore, then guess what? We've already won. And
so yeah, Charles says the financial system just takes advantage of us and we just follow out of fear. But maybe with crypto we're going to be free. I don't know. Cryptos are us. This winter won't last. Sailor says we're in crypto winter, his 5th one since he started buying. But he said this one is milder, shorter, and ends the same way as others did with spring and then a real run. Man, I sure hope so. BTC has gone through brutal winters before, 2018, 2020, 2022. Each one felt unbearable. And then, things just went up through the moon. Peter Schiff, sell Bitcoin now. Peter Schiff warns that if Bitcoin breaks 50,000, it could fall to 20,000, an 84% drop from its all-time high. He says this cycle is different due to massive hype, leverage, institutional ownership, and market cap at stake. This cycle is definitely different, and because we have more buyers. So Bitcoin is not going to fall to 20,000. Bitcoin, if it falls to 20,000, I'm all in. Bitcoin will probably continue to go up. Maybe not as much as people say. Maybe not to 1 million, but I think it'll still go up a little bit more, and it will go up with inflation as inflation gets worse. You bought Bitcoin at 69,000 in 2021. It's 2026, and the price today is 66,000. Yes. This dude is a great actor. This dude is crying. If you can't see the video. What's this guy's name? I forgot this guy's name. He's like the bad guy in all of James Bond films. But that's a cycle. It goes above that, goes below that. But that's a cycle. You gotta either hold if you want to hold for it to get higher and higher, or you gotta sell it when it's in the up cycle. Me, if I decided to sell the top instead of HODL, yes, this is all of us. We would be happy, we would be dancing. But the problem is, you never know when it's the top. You don't know when it's the top. It's always different. The market always screws with your mind. It's like, it never goes exactly the same. It never repeats the same. They always say it rhymes, but it never repeats the same pattern. And if it really did rhyme, everybody would know when to sell. But nobody knows, and we all round trip our bags all the time. I think you have to just like, because this last time I said, when I have this much money, when it's gone up this much, and it went about halfway up to where I wanted, so once it hits this point, I'm going to sell it, because then I'll have made the profit that I wanted to make, and I won't know when the best time to sell is. But I only made it halfway there, and it was very short-lived, the little alt season we had, and that was it. So you just don't know. But if you hold good coins long term, they should always come back, and at some point you should sell and maybe invest the money into something like that brings you cash flow, or maybe something more stable. That's my 2 cents. Well, have a great, wonderful, awesome weekend. Enjoy it. Enjoy your family. Enjoy life. Be happy. Relax. And I will see you all on Monday. All 1 or 2 of you. Bye.